let's kick off the webinar. I'll quickly introduce myself. So my name is Yoko. Most of you guys know me. Some of you know my colleague Sander better, who's here as well. I StreetSmart's partnership coordinator for Europe and Latin America. So I actually do what Sander does, but for different continents. And Sander is here to follow the webinar, but he'll also follow up the chats and share some links and see, like, if I miss some questions, he can interrupt me. You guys can do the same. If you have questions, remarks, suggestions, if something is not clear, if you want to have more information about something, please just interrupt me or put your question in the chat so we can group them together. And then, yeah, we can get into your questions as well. You can actually, because doing the entire introduction round would lead us too far, and then we definitely don't have time enough to go over everything. You can maybe quickly introduce yourselves in the chat. Write down who you are, which organization you're joining from, and from which country maybe. I think that might be interesting for the other participants to know who else is here. Because we're part of an international network, of course. So it's nice to see who else is joining. You will get to know some of your co-webinar guests a bit better at the end of the webinar, because we'll do an exercise together. But this way you can quickly introduce yourselves already. Cool. So the webinar today is about our educational materials. As you know, we have different types of educational materials with different methodologies on different topics. And one of those topics is health. And one of the subtopics of health is sexual health. And that's part of our educational offer, is the parts that we adapted. Now, before we go into the panels, we will give a bit of explanation about comprehensive sexuality education. And this is what the program will look like. Yeah. So I'll give a brief introduction. We'll talk about what comprehensive sexual education is, why it's important, when it's important, and how we can go about addressing these topics. And then we'll look into the panels we developed, or you'll look into the panels we developed, and we'll wrap up. Yeah. I already told some of you in the beginning here, this is like a general introduction on the topic. There's a lot of subtopics. Sexuality education is very broad. So if you're interested in finding out more, you can fill in a survey at the end of the webinar and let us know which subtopics of sexuality you're most interested in. And there's a chance we'll organize webinars on those as well in the future. Yeah. So today is more like let's look into the possibilities and the scope. And then we can go more in depth later, maybe if there's enough interest from you guys, of course. It will depend on which target groups you work with, I guess. Cool. So first question is logically, what is comprehensive sexuality education? Maybe someone feels like they want to share what they think of when they think of comprehensive sexuality education. What pops into mind? Who wants to share what they're thinking of?
Can I speak?
Of course, Albana, go ahead.
I was just thinking about a method or information about sex education for youth, children, to give them knowledge, skills, or values to make appropriate choices in their sexual lives, to prevent the sexually transmitted infections, etc., or sexual violence, or.
Thanks a lot. That's actually a very comprehensive answer already. Thanks a lot. Yeah, and I see some answers popping up in the chat as well. So what is comprehensive sexuality education? It's actually learning about the cognitive, emotional, physical, and social aspects of sexuality. As I said before, sexuality is very broad. So it's not just explaining like what is safe sex or what is an STD. It's also about relationships, feelings. It's everything that has to do something with the relationship with you and other people and your body. So it's very, very broad. Yeah. Why is it important? You can think of this as well. Yeah, why do you think it's important? Albana already mentioned some aspects of it. One of the most important reasons is that it's a right. So sexual and reproductive rights are fundamental and universal human rights. So every youngster has a right to a qualitative relationship and sexuality education. Yeah, so it's actually a part of our human rights to receive good qualitative sexual education. Yeah, what else? We can help them develop a framework about relations and sexuality, give them values and norms, teach them to set boundaries and to respect the wishes and boundaries of others, help them to understand and feel positive about their bodies, because a positive self-image also leads to safer choices, actually. Stimulate them to experience relationships and sexuality in a positive way, which is already something we accomplish when they learn to set and communicate boundaries and respect the boundaries of others, but also when they find out more about values and norms of sexuality. So everything leads to this positive experience of their sexuality. And give them the tools they need. This is what Albana mentioned as well, to make conscious, healthy, and responsible decisions. Yeah, so that's part of your job as an educator, is making sure they have the tools, not just sexuality education tools, but all tools they need to make conscious, healthy, and responsible decisions. This is the case here as well. Yeah, so we need to make sure they have all the knowledge, they have all the skills they need to make these decisions, etc. Cool. Yeah, we're also looking into some myths actually about sexuality education, because there's a lot of myths concerning the topic. And our first myth that we are going to bust is this sentence. Yeah, so this is something I've actually heard many times before. Yeah, so people are concerned that by giving sexual education to the kids, you actually encourage them to have sex from a younger age. Yeah, they have more information, so they're going to act on it, or they will want to explore sooner because they know more already than if you don't give them the information. Yeah, it's actually the reverse. Yeah, youngsters that are well informed wait longer to have sex. They use condoms and anti-conception more adequately, and in general, they make safer and healthier choices. So it's actually safer to give information than not to give information. Because kids that have the correct information, they are less at risk of STDs, sexual transgressive behavior, of being victim, but also of being a perpetrator. And they are also happier in their relationships. So I think it's fair to say that it's just really important to talk about sex. Yeah, it's not always easy, which is why we develop materials and why we're here today. But that it's important is already set in stone. So that's important to take into account. Another myth. Yeah. Well, these days, kids can just find everything they need to find on the internet. Yeah. So there's no more need for sex education. What am I going to tell them that they can't already find somewhere else? Yeah. This is why. And I could have put many numbers here, but this is one of the reasons. Yeah. Only 34% of young people around the world has accurate knowledge of HIV protection. Yeah. And 2 out of 3 girls in some countries I have no idea what happens when they're first menstruating. Yeah. For example, in India, there's a lot of school dropouts when girls start menstruating, because there's a lot of taboo around it. There's no access to menstrual pads and stuff like that. So they have to use cloths and they stay at home. Kids do have a lot of access to information. Yeah, if you have a computer, you have a lot of information at hand. You have your friends as well you can ask. But having the correct information at hand is something else. Yeah. If kids, for example, base what they know about sex only on what they find on social media or maybe in porn even, there's a lot of misconceptions. Yeah. If you base your knowledge of sex, for example, on porn, you could assume that it's normal for guys to be very dominant, not to use protection, that everybody has a perfect body, that everybody is always up for having sex. Yeah. So these are things that they can find a lot of information, but it's not always accurate. And it's our job to make sure they do have access to accurate information. Do you need to give it? Do you need to be the only one to give them that accurate information? Of course not. But you need to make sure that you can appoint them to websites, tools, organizations where they can find that information. So if they go looking for themselves, they have the access to the right information at hand. Cool. So we looked into why sex ed is important. There's more reasons specifically for the target groups that you're working with. Yeah. So it's even more important to address it when working with vulnerable children and youth. Why is that? For example, they initiate sex or they tend to initiate sex at an earlier age than their peers. They prohibit more sexually risky behavior. They tend to have multiple sexual partners, don't use contraceptives usually. They sometimes also trade sex for money, drugs, or shelter, and engage in sexual activity while intoxicated, which also does not correlate well, of course, with safe sex. What else? Short-term thinking. This is something general, of course. They don't really think about, there's not a lot of future orientation. So it's more today, not really tomorrow. Difficult to weigh the pros and the cons and to assess the reliability of information. So again, there is information, but it's very difficult for them to see which information is correct or not. So there's a lot of myths, misinformation, misconception concerning sexuality. Because they also get that wrong information from people near them, or they find out on social media, stuff like that. So again, very important to make sure they have access to accurate information. There's little knowledge of anti-conception, of the menstrual cycle, and usually there's also a misjudgment of the risk of being able to get pregnant. So they don't think there's a lot of risks involved. And then there's an inability to access appropriate services. The kids you work with don't usually have a lot of access to a doctor's office or a healthcare center. So if you know of places they can go to where they provide, for example, free services, it would be really nice to share this with the kids as well, of course. Where can they get an STD test? How much does it cost? Where can they go if this happens? Is there an organization that provides a certain service? So map out those organizations, websites, books, so you can give them like a tool set, and you're not the only one that can give them information on this topic. All right, so we looked into what and why, and now my next question is when, and I'm going to launch a poll if I succeed to ask you guys when you think is the appropriate age to start with sexual education. There's 5 different answers possible, and you can choose one. So you'll see a poll pop up, and you can choose the answer that you think is correct. Or that what your opinion is. So comprehensive sexuality education should start from the age of 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, or 12 to 15. Sorry. And if everything goes according to plan, I'll see your answers here as well. Okay, most people have already voted. The answers are a bit divided. The most popular answer is 3 to 6 years old. This is a good age to start with sex ed, but the most correct answer is actually 0 to 3 years old. You should start as early as possible. Why is that? Well, when kids, as soon as you're born, but also, for example, toddlers already, from the moment you're 1 year old till you're 3 years old, you're already curious about your own body, about how your body develops. You discover the differences between boys and girls. And toddlers sometimes like to use dirty words. This is all also part of sexuality. For toddlers, for example, it's really important that you are able to name all your body parts accurately, so that there's no shame that your genital area is as normal as your arm and your leg, for example. So really giving them the names for all the body parts, because this also makes it safer for them in the future. What do I mean by that? If they have all the correct terms, should something happen, it's easier to talk about good and bad touches if you can adequately name all your body parts. And then you can actually communicate about something that happens. So giving them that vocabulary is already a very important tool to talk about sexuality, sexual transgressive behavior, but also just body development, getting to know their body. So as soon as possible. And when should we offer it? Well, continuously. You don't have to talk about it every time you go to the streets, of course, But what can you do when someone has a specific question? Go into it, make sure you bring more information the next time. And once in a while, also organize specifically an activity about a topic that you know the kids are dealing with, or maybe that could be of interest, because they don't always show it, but they're all very concerned with relationships, emotions, sexuality. So it's not because they don't mention it explicitly that they don't want to talk about it. And maybe you prepare an activity about, I don't know, safe sex, and the discussion goes towards gender stereotypes. Perfect. Yeah, make sure you follow the interests of your target group, but give them, like, provide enough opportunities to talk about the different subtopics within sexuality. Yeah, so kids are never too young. That's the important conclusion. Something you might think is, well, what do we do if we work with mixed groups? Yeah, there's like older kids and younger kids together. What do we do then? Well, it's actually okay to openly talk about sex with older kids as well when younger kids are there, because you can never give too much information. Yeah, kids only save the information that is relevant for them, and they will leave out everything else. So they will pick those parts of information that they need at that moment, and you can't actually give them too much information. So that's also something you don't have to worry about. So better provide too much information than none at all, is the key lesson here. Cool. Then continuing, how do we address this? Yeah, so what is it? Why it's important? We saw all this. When do we need to do it? As soon as possible and continuously. But how do we approach the subject? Because we know it's not really easy. I'll first look into some more myths about what is expected of street educators, or educators in general, yeah, youth workers. The first myth is, well, I'm not an expert, so I'm really not the right person to discuss the topic. Yeah, I don't have all the answers, so I'm just gonna, they can ask their questions to someone who knows everything. Yeah, it's of course a myth. It's okay, it's very much okay not to have all the answers, because nobody does. Just be honest about it. If you get a question and you don't really know the answer, don't give them wrong information just to give them an answer. Just say, well, I don't know, let's look it up together. And this way you can show them where to find the right information. I already told that, I mentioned it before. Make sure you know some of the websites, apps, tools, organizations they can go to find accurate information, so you can refer them to those places. Yeah, so you can say, if you have more questions, maybe you can look that website. Usually has a lot of information about it, something like that. So be open, be honest, and guide them, coach them in the process of finding right information. And also inform yourself. Yeah, make sure you know which organizations provide which services, where they can go to get an STD test, for example. You don't have to provide everything yourself, but provide them with information that can be useful. I added an example of a Belgian website. There's actually a lot of organizations in Belgium kids can turn to concerning this topic, but it's not relevant for you guys if I share them all, because it's very country specific. But this website is an example. It's called everythingaboutsex.be, allesoversex.be. And there's different subtexts, like subtopics of sexuality kids can click on, and they find each like a kid's appropriate explanation about that specific part of sexuality. A website I can share with you, and which is actually international, is this one. It's called zanzu.be. And you can find pictograms of everything concerning sex, and it's available in all these languages. So you can see here in Persian, in Polish, in Albanian, in Turkish. You can type in a keyword concerning sexuality, and then you can find images that go along with it. So if you want to design your own materials, or you want to talk about a sexuality related topic with kids, maybe this website can help you. Or maybe you work with refugees that don't know the terms yet, then you can also work with pictograms. That's a good way to work. So this is a really nice website to look into. It's originally a Belgian one. I think it's a cooperation, but as you can see, it's available in all these languages. So here it doesn't form a barrier for you guys either. So this is a tool you can use. Cool. One other myth about educators. As an educator, I'm partially responsible for the actions the kids and the youngsters take. Yeah, I provide them with information, so I need to make sure that they act on it. Of course, that's not true. In general, that's not true. Your job is just to give them the right information and all the tools they need to make their decisions. Which decisions they make, that's up to them. Yeah, your job ends at giving good guidance and support, and giving them all the options possible at hand, non-judgmental options, everything that's possible, and then they choose. And it's their decision. So you're not responsible for the results, but you are responsible for coaching the process or giving them the tools they need. Okay, some more tips and tricks. For example, if you have questions, please interrupt me as well. If not, I'll just keep talking. So some more tips and tricks. Create a safe and positive environment and atmosphere. It's really important that everybody feels safe to express their opinion without being judged, or that kids don't feel like they have to defend their opinion, because opinions will differ. There will be kids with different opinions, and it's okay as long as everything can happen in a respectful way. And you try to understand the others' the decisions, and there can be a discussion, but it's open and non-judgmental. That's really important, that everybody feels free to share what they're thinking and feeling. And you need to have an open and non-judgmental attitude as well. And a good example from the mobile school I can give you guys is one from Bitom, that was shared by one of our master trainers, Robert. And he said that one day at their mobile school, the kids, like some older kids, they started trying like penises on the mobile school, like, ho, 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 penis, penis. And they started trying them like to get a reaction from the street educators. And what the street educators did was actually turn the penises into cartoons, like create different drawings with them, and then open up the discussion and say like, okay, well, what is this? What did you draw? What does it do? What can you use it for? So the kids saw that it was actually okay to talk about it, that it was an open atmosphere, that it wasn't taboo, and they didn't do it anymore. Yeah, I cannot guarantee you that by addressing it, there will never once show up a penis anymore on your mobile school. But this is a way you can address it. Yeah, just go into it. Use that moment as a learning moment, and make advantage of it to address the topic in a playful way with humor. And it will set a scene for them in the future as well. They will know it's okay for me here to ask these questions, or to have an interest about it, or to talk about it. There's no taboo. So maybe in the future, if I have a question, I will come up to you as well. More tips and tricks. Yeah, be aware of your own frame of reference. This is something we tell you in other trainings as well. Yeah, we all have our glasses on. They're colored by everything we have in our backpack. Yeah, our upbringing, our culture, our religion, our past experiences. We have our own stereotypes, even if we're not aware of them. So you really need to try to be conscious of them. You need to make sure that you communicate in a way that's as neutral as possible, and try to be Switzerland, so to speak. So be as neutral as possible during the discussions as well, and make sure every side gets a turn, and guide the discussions instead of imposing your own opinion, because that's not the idea, of course. Then we all work with very diverse groups. Yes, some kids will have a lot of sexual experience, others will not. Maybe young kids, older kids of different ages, of different cultures, of different religions. What's really important there is not to focus too much on the differences, or to categorize the kids in groups and make generalizations, but really to focus on the individual kids with their individual experiences, because all kids, yeah, there's a lot of similarities as well. All kids think about or have feelings or think about relationships, or what it's like, have fallen in love or want to fall in love, or there's a lot of similarities sexuality wise that you can use to start from for discussions. So focus more on those than on the differences. Clearly set your own boundaries. You will get a lot of questions if you enter into discussions about your own life or experiences as well. Make sure that you know what you want to share and what you don't want to share. And if you don't want to share something, just clearly say, well, this is too personal, I'm not going to share. But also make sure that you think about the question behind the question. If someone asks you, what was your, like, when did you have sex for the first time, for example, maybe they just want to find out what the appropriate age is to have sex for the first time and not really need your personal answer. So think about which information you can give them, even if you don't give your own personal answer, but set boundaries where you need to put them. And this also gives, like, it's a good way for the kids to see that they can also set their own boundaries. They don't need to feel obligated to share things they don't want to share. Yeah, they just share what they want to. Show active, sincere interest. Know and read the group. Know the group you work with. For some topics, it might be nicer to work separately with the girls or with the boys, or maybe it's nicer to work with the group together. Make sure you know when everybody feels comfortable to discuss specific themes. It's really interesting to work with a mixed group, but that's only possible if everybody feels okay with that. And you guys know the kids you work with best, so you will know what the best setup is to address these topics. If there is a simple answer, give it. This sounds really simple, but sometimes we make it more complicated than it needs to be. So try to be as straightforward as possible when they have questions. Be well informed. I already told you guys you don't need to have all the answers, but if you go to the streets and you bring a certain topic, make sure you have the basic information. If you talk about STDs, that you know about the symptoms, the types of STDs, the treatment. So prepare yourselves. If you get a question like that during a session, of course, you can't always be prepared for everything. Then you just look up the information, but make sure where you can turn for the right information. Work on emotions, skills, and attitudes, and not just on knowledge. Draw up guidelines with the kids. One of the examples is Picasso. I'm not going to go into detail because I'm already talking longer than I wanted to before the activity with the panels. So I'm quickly just going to let them appear on the screen. If you have more questions about it, I'm more than willing to share. This is a framework used by Sensoa, which is like the Flemish Expertise Center of Sexuality. These are some of the rules they set. And they do this together with the kids at the beginning of a workshop or session. They write it down, they talk about it, they discuss them. This is something you could do as well. Maybe make pictograms or use icons or invent your own rules with the kids so you can refer back to them. I briefly want to go into the last one here. It says laughing. And this stands for like laughing is okay as long as you're not laughing like at someone. So humor is important. You can laugh it out, so to speak, but we're not going to laugh with people. We respect everyone and everyone's opinion. And this demystifies another myth. And that's, for example, well, when we start talking about sex, the kids they just start laughing, so they feel uncomfortable. They don't want to talk about it, and they're not taking it seriously. Now, laughing is just actually a way of coping with the embarrassment that comes along automatically with talking about the topic, and it's totally okay. Yeah. So it's really okay to laugh it out. And it's actually also very important that you provide this moment before you address the topic. So we're not just gonna immediately go to the streets and start about, okay, I have my activity, let's talk about it. You build up your activity, you warm up, you energize, play an active energizer so they can like get used to the words and the feeling and get over the initial embarrassment. You can laugh a bit, play around, and then you can dive into the topic. So it's not because they're laughing that they're not interested or not taking it seriously. Make sure there's approachable, tailor-made information and exercises, and there's a variety of exercises. Address your language use, which is something you can do through exercises as well, but we're going to do this right away, so I'm not going to go into it. And build up, this is what I said before. Make sure you build up your activity and you don't just dive into the topic immediately, because then you will maybe scare away the kids and they won't want to approach the subject anymore. Yeah, it's something you need to warm up to with the kids and yourself as well. Cool. To do all this, we developed educational materials to help you guys out. Yeah, so we already saw it's really important to do it. We gave you some guidelines on how you can approach the subject, some general rules or tips and tricks. To put this all into practice, we tried to help you a little, and we redesigned and added things to our educational package on sexuality. In total, we now have 27 activities available on the various subtopics of sexuality, which you can see here actually. As I said before, sexuality is very broad. All the subtopics are highly interlinked, of course, because you need to know your body to be able to set boundaries and things like that. There's a variety of methodologies, so you can vary. There's different energizers within each subtopic. I'll recommend you to explore them all extensively, but we'll dive into some of the panels together today as well. Sander will share a link in the chat with an article about our package, and per subtopic, all the games of that subtopic are listed. Yeah, this also on our StreetSmart Play platform, which you'll go to later. Each activity of the package in the game information describes all the other games of the package as well. So you can always see, I'm interested in another game on this topic, or maybe I want to see something like a general game on sexuality to introduce the subject. Then you can just click on what you need and you'll find it there. What did we do with our educational materials? Firstly, we redesigned some of them. Yeah, we took a critical look at the ones we had already. Based on the feedback we got from you guys, we made them less explicit, more up-to-date. We included more situations, and we made them more universal as well. And our layout was adapted to our other health panels that were redesigned earlier, last year actually. So the examples of the redesigned panels are this one. This is a Choose Your Relationship panel. So the people here that already work with the mobile school will know this panel. So today I'm not diving into the redesigned panels because some of you know them already. We'll just address the new ones together. So this is a panel to talk about different types of relationships and how you feel with them. And this image was too explicit, so we changed it, and now the panel looks like this, and the people are, they have a blanket on top of them. It seems silly maybe, but by adding a blanket, if it makes it less explicit and more okay to address a topic on the streets, then for us adding a blanket is more than okay, as long as you guys can address the topic that way. This panel also underwent a makeover. These are the physical changes in puberty. So we added boys and girls to the changes that happened to both of them. We made it more multicultural, as you can see. And we added sanitary napkins as well to talk about menstruation. Will I have a healthy baby panel was already redesigned earlier actually. We noticed that all the situations were already a part of these panels that were redesigned last year. These are the panels on a healthy pregnancy and baby care. Another one that was redesigned was Can I Get Pregnant? This panel now looks like this. Yeah, so we added more situations, more different types of sex, a couple of blankets, but also more preservatives and more situations regarding different taboos in different countries. Yeah, so this panel was expanded as well to address more topics, and there's more variety. The panel before only had one correct answer, and now the answers are the correct, well, one answer where you couldn't get pregnant, where you could get pregnant, and now the answers are more varied. And then this panel, well, these two panels actually talk about AIDS and using preservatives. And these two, we combined them and we changed them into a panel on STDs generally, which we will look into now. Because we also developed new materials to add to our package. One of those is Body Twister. It's a very fun game to play. It's also a good energizer. It's about setting boundaries and respecting boundaries. Yeah, you spin and you choose silhouettes. For example, this one. Then you spin again and you choose a color. For example, red. So those are the arms. And then I spin again, and then, for example, the ear. And then I need to touch the arms of another player with my ear. A very brief explanation. Then the other player can say if it's okay for him or her or not. And this way you talk about boundaries. You give the kids 3 passes And if someone used up all their passes, you talk about when everybody used their passes and why. If people have the same boundaries, how you can communicate them, how you can respect other people's boundaries. It's a really easy game. You can actually use it as an energizer for other topics as well. Just because it's a bit physical, you can laugh a bit, you can move around a bit, but you also address a very important part of sexuality. The other panels, there's one new card game and two new additional panels you will explore in groups. But before we go into that, I'm going to give you an energizer as well, because one of the energizers is also possible online. Which energizer is that? It's a synonym game. This game, I will explain right now. Let me just see that the rooms are okay. Yes. Cool. What is the idea? I will put you in breakout rooms. And you will be 3 people per breakout room. There will be one breakout room with only 2 people. And the idea is that you will look for as many synonyms as possible for the words that I will give you. I will give you 2 words actually immediately. You'll get 5 words, 5 minutes to write down as many synonyms as possible for those 2 words. And then when you get back, it will be a bit of a competition with the other groups. So make sure you really put in an effort. The words you need to look for a synonym for are penis is the first word, and the second word is intercourse. So you'll go into your groups. One person writes down everything and will be the spokesperson of your group. So as many synonyms as possible for the word penis and for the word intercourse. Yeah. Think creatively, all the terms that you have ever heard of, write them down and help out your group mates. I will stop sharing for a while just to see if everything is clear. Did you understand the exercise?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Cool. I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms now. So penis and intercourse, as many synonyms as possible, 1 spokesperson per group. And in 5 minutes, I will call you back to see what your results are. Cool. And then we'll dive into the panels as well in the same groups. Good luck. Welcome back. Okay, raise your hand, the spokesperson of room 1. Who is the spokesperson of group 1? Albana, Nikos, or Teona?
Okay, we were the room 1. Okay.
Are you the?
I?
Okay, perfect. So Albana, then group 2, Elenia Roda. Who is the spokesperson there?
We didn't decide, but I don't have an issue. If you, Rhoda, want to be the spokesperson of our group. But to be honest, Yoki, in this first part, we didn't understand what we have to do. We had some issues with the internet, so it wasn't clear.
Okay, let's see if...
Maybe we need the spokesperson.
Okay, and then Sander, Sofia, or Tatya, who...
I'm the one who with the notes. So
okay, cool. So Eleni and Roda, the idea was that you wrote down as many synonyms as possible for the words penis and intercourse. Okay, but we'll see how far you got. Now I'm gonna ask Albana, Sander, and Roda to read out every time. We're gonna use the words penis to start from, to one by one say a synonym. If you have a synonym the other group used as well, you cannot use it anymore. And the last group to be still talking is a winner. Yeah, because they wrote down the most words. Cool. So Albana, you can start.
Okay. About penis.
Yeah.
Okay. Dick.
Dick. Sander.
Weenie weenie.
In the in the first place, sorry about this, but English is not my first language, so what I heard about movies. Okay.
It's all good. Yeah, I know this is an extra barrier. If you play this with the kids you work with, there will be a lot more options and a lot more words that you will know as well, right? But okay. So we have Albana said her answer. Then Sander, what was yours?
Weenie weenie.
Okay. Roda, did you guys find something else?
No.
No? Eleni, do you think of a word? No? Albana, did your group have another one?
Yes, 3 ones.
Go ahead, one more.
Male genital organ.
Okay.
Does it count?
Of course it counts. Sander?
Ding dong.
Albana?
Prick.
What did you say?
Prick.
Okay. Sander?
As a reference to How I Met Your Mother, barnacle.
Albana?
And cock.
Okay. Sander, did you have another one?
Yes, of course. Phallus or phallia.
Okay, you can continue if you have more.
Our group.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, we came to a conclusion that there's an unlimited amount of names because, and my colleagues mentioned that, which was a very good one. Apparently, men always take their own name and add like small or little towards it. So, little Robert or little Roger, or yeah, men who are a bit more confident can also change little to something else, of course. So, in fact, there's an unlimited amount of names we came up with. So, thanks to my Georgian colleagues.
Oh, perfect. So your group is the winner of this exercise. Congratulations. This is just a small, so something went wrong with the technical issues. And of course, it's not, when you play this in real life, it's more fun because you can laugh and you sit together in groups and you see the other groups talking, and you can, it's less restrictive than it is here because we also don't know each other that well and we're not in the same room, which has more barriers. But this is actually a really fun way. I played this game when I was I was following a workshop myself. And it was with people I didn't know, and it's so uncomfortable that you start laughing, and then you immediately are like, okay, yeah, because the words are normal words that everybody uses. And what's really noticeable is that there's like a gazillion synonyms for penis, vagina, intercourse, those kind of words, and that all our other body parts just have one name. Yeah, so the reason why we have so many synonyms for our genital organs is also because there's a lot of taboo, and we describe them. Sometimes we use terms that are specifically not the terms they are. For example, what was it, Sander? Your first one?
A weenie weenie?
Weenie weenie. To indicate it, not to use the word penis, for example. What's important is you could play this with the kids, and then you can write out the words, and you can decide together which words you will use. Yeah, this to avoid that you use very scientific language. Yeah, so let's talk about the coitus. With the kids, it's not accessible, but also not to use too vulgar words. So you can reach an agreement together, like, okay, these are the words we're going to use when we talk about sex and sexual intercourse. This is a fun activity you can play. Yeah, so a bit less fun online, but still with some results. So thanks a lot for your participation. We're going to use the same breakout rooms to talk to dive into the panels, the new activities we created. I'm going to just quickly share my screen again. So this is the Energizer we played. It's also accessible online on our StreetSmart Play platform. It's one of the 27 activities that we provide. But there's many more Energizers. Just most of them are only possible in real life. So you can play them physically with the kids. There's something called the yes or no circle as well, which is something recommendable and adaptable for each topic. They're a part of, like in the article, the sexuality in general category contains all exercises that you can play to see, okay, which terms do the kids know already, what are they comfortable with, which words will we use to break the ice, to warm up, to laugh a bit. Those are the types of exercises you can play. Right now, I'll show you the one new card game, two more new panels. And you'll go back to your groups and I will give you a new exercise. Yeah, so this is one of the, this is our new card game, actually. It's two new card games. This is a card game you can use to prepare for this card game. So this is a card game group one we'll be working with. It's called Not Okay. This is the second panel about emotional changes in puberty. And the third panel is the STD roulette. Yeah. Sander will share the links in the chat. So group 1 will talk about the not okay card game. Group 2 will talk about the emotional changes in puberty. So group 2 is Eleni and Roda. And group 3 is Sander, Sofio, and Tatja. You will talk about the STD roulette. What is the idea? The idea is now that you think of, okay, if I have this panel with me and I think about the kids I work with, how would I address this topic? Yeah, so you'll go to the Play, our StreetSmart Play platform, where the manual of the panel is. You can read through the description of the panel, look at how it's supposed to be played maybe, or what our idea was to play the panel. But then you will also think of, okay, which energizer would I use to address this topic, or how can I warm up to play this topic? How would I use the panel with younger kids, with older kids, with my target group? Yeah, so try to come up with a fun way to play the panel that you were assigned with your target group. And then in 15 minutes, we'll regroup and I'll gladly listen to your creative ideas that we can then add to our Play platform for more youth workers to use your creative ideas as well. Yeah, so picture your target group, think of how you would take this panel with you to the streets, and maybe also how you can build up an activity around it. Yeah, what would you do beforehand? What would you do afterwards? Taking into account all the information we gave today during the webinar as well. Check.
Time we have.
You have 15 minutes to prepare, and then we still have time enough to present our results to the other groups and to give feedback.
Okay.
Okay, so you have until 11:15 Belgian time for this exercise.
Sorry, can you repeat our question? It is emotional change on...
Emotional changes of puberty, yes. So Sander shared in the chat. He shared the link, and you're group 2, Roda. So you can open the panel of group 2.
Okay.
Perfect. If you have problems, you can call me from the waiting room. And yes, that's it. Okay. Yes, I'm gonna open all rooms, and Sander will actually stay here with me. Sander, I can't uninvite you, but you can not accept the invitation. That's possible. Yeah, Sander actually helped develop the materials, so it might be difficult to come up with new ways. But this way, you're 2 people in each breakout room, so it's also fairly distributed. So have a lot of fun thinking about it, talking about it, get to know each other a bit as well. Use the opportunity to get to know each other. Good luck, and I'll see you back in 15 minutes. Any problems, just raise your hands from the breakout room and I'll come and join you immediately. Here we are, and everybody still looks happy-ish. Yeah, are we still happy? Okay. All right, let's look into what you came up with. This was your probably first-hand experience with some of the new panels, which I hope encourages you to look at the others as well. But I will share the page of group 1, and then they can take over. Okay, so I'll share my screen so you can see, so everybody can see the activity that you talked about. And group 1 is Albana and Nikos. Then you can tell us what you came up with for your target groups with this particular game. Yeah, so it's a not okay card game. You can see it here, and I'll hand the mic over to you guys.
Okay, Nikos, should I speak?
Yeah, take the first game, I will take the second. But basically, the basic idea was from Albana in both. I need to give the credit where
Credit where credit is due. Perfect. Okay, Albana.
So for the group members to understand what is okay and not okay, just a short explanation. The game here is like we show the players the cards of not okay card deck and okay card deck. This is the example of a girl masturbating in bed, and we ask the players if they think this situation is okay or is not okay. And if they think is okay, they step to the left. If they think is not okay, they step to the right. And after that, they make some argumentation, then reflection. After this game, we thought about 2 other games in a different way, but the meaning is the same. The first one, we titled like No Words Needed. And it's like this. We show card to one person, one child, the older one, for example. And this person, like we show the card to Nikos. Nikos has the duty to present the actions without speaking. And the group, there are 2 groups, and they have to find the actions, what is. After that, they divide and explain is okay or is not okay with argumentation.
Nice. Okay, no words needed. It's a really beautiful title.
Yeah, these 2 groups, the group who find the actions, they have 1 point. It's like a stimulation.
Perfect. Okay.
The second game, it's going to be show the okay, represent the okay action. So we will show in group the not okay action. And they have to represent the okay, how it would be. And we will ask the group if they agree, if they have any suggestion, to have the reflection about that. We didn't put any contest in that because it goes more in reflection about it.
Yeah. And the title of this was the Find the Opposite.
Find the opposite. Okay, nice. Okay, I will add them to our platform. Thanks a lot for your wonderful game ideas. Something to remember as well, because this is it's a card game and there's some explicit situations on it, but it's a card game, so you can choose which ones you choose and which ones you don't. But it's nice, of course, to also talk about the more explicit ones if you feel comfortable enough with them. To get used to the methodology, we also developed another card game, which you can find here in the additional game info. It says, oh, someone else is joining. No. Yeah, here it doesn't have a link in it, so I should add it. That you can play the strange or normal card game beforehand. And it's a similar card game, actually, but it's more about situations, for example, eating with your hands or bathing in a river, or for 2 men to walk together with a baby in a park. So those are, it's like a good way of low-key, very accessible, getting used to the situations, the type of methodology, talking about the subjects. So this is a card game you can use to lead up to this one. And this one is really when you know, well, the kids feel comfortable, we can talk about it. And the enacting is also a fun way to address it, because then you're already playing out the situation and there's less limits. So that's also a very fun way to play it, actually. So we'll definitely add it to the platform. Cool. So do you think you guys will use it? Maybe Albana and Nikos, it's a question maybe after looking into it. Is this something you would use on the streets?
I think it's easy. I'm going to apply it in my own personal, how I'm thinking the training now. It's amazing how we can put it in a discussion for parents and kids to discuss what is okay and that. So it's an opening dialogue.
Perfect.
Or for the educator, it's an opening dialogue to start discussing with the kids if you directly.
Cool. Albana, you as well?
Yes, the same. I think it's very easy to do this game.
Great. Okay, that's good feedback already. Then I'm gonna go over to group 2, and that's Eleni and Roda. You talked about the emotional changes in puberty. You actually added this panel because we only had a panel about the physical changes, but in puberty so many more things happen and we didn't have a panel to discuss those things. So we added a panel about the emotional changes in puberty, and I'll give the word to Eleni and or Roda to tell us what they came up with.
Roda, your microphone.
Yes.
Do you want to start?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. I've discussed with my fellow on emotional change on puberty. We said that we are going to group the kids in groups, and we are going to ask them to share on what emotional change do they what emotional change they experience on their time of puberty, so that we can hear what they have to say. So everyone can hear what one has to share, and we will have a time to explain to them that those things which happen, for sometimes it can be bad to them, it sometimes change their moods, because there are some who can happen, they can get pimples maybe on their faces, body changes, so sometimes it becomes not good for others. So when they share, we can have a time to explain to them that what is happening is not only to them, but it to also to others, so that it cannot be, they cannot take it as bad thing on the time of growing.
Nice. Yeah. So to reassure them that it's all normal, that
Yes.
it's happening for a reason. Yeah, that's
Yes.
that's a good way to work with it.
Yes,
Is this...
maybe if Elena can add something.
Eleni, do you want to add something?
Yes, and we also discussed maybe we can add an energizer with this panel and invite children to name the emotions that they are experiencing during these changes, which emotions from them are new, and maybe identify these emotions to the body. For example, how I feel anger in my body, how I feel stress in my body, how I feel happiness in my body, things like that. Because it's difficult to discuss about emotional change without knowing your emotions. So maybe it's a good energizer that we can combine with this panel.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, it's a good suggestion. All right, any other ideas to play with this panel? Is this something like for the others, after listening to the explanation as well, is this a panel that you would use? Is this something you think your target group might be interested in? What do you think?
You're asking us or the whole group?
The whole group, the whole group. Yeah, so you guys presented fun games to play with the panel, and now I'm just wondering if the others, like after listening to this, if they say, oh yes, this is a panel we want to try out on the streets with the kids we work with. Is this something you think would work with your target groups? So maybe someone from Georgia or Albania or...
Nicholas.
No opinions?
It's good to combine both physical and emotional, so we don't let one level to stay out.
Yeah, exactly, because it's also combined. It's what Rhoda mentioned. Yeah, there a lot of things are happening, and this also plays with, like, yeah, you're part of a group, but you're also not part of a group, and then your body changes, and you compare yourself to other people, and it's all, yeah, exactly. Everything that's physical is also a bit social, and in puberty, so many things are happening. So this is, yeah.
And it's very interesting to inform the children that body changes are regarding also our internal organs, not only the external. So the change of our internal organs influence hormones, and hormones maybe you can educate them, psychoeducate them in these kind of things in order to solve the puzzle easily.
Nice. Yeah, that's also a good observation. I'm just thinking also that you could ask them to draw their own hearts with the things that are most important to them or like make their own panel. What have you experienced, or what do you think of, or what is troubling you, or what is, so you could combine it with a drawing activity, for example. So many possibilities. And then we'll go to our final group. Thanks a lot to group 2 for sharing and for discussing it together. So hopefully this will encourage you to use it and to try it out on the streets with the fun games that you came up with. And then this is our final game. It's the STD roulette. And it's actually a replacement of our HIV and condom use panel that were pretty outdated. We combined them and we made an STD roulette. And I'll hand over the word to group 3 to tell us what they came up with this panel, to explain a bit what it's about.
So we thought that we would start with the informational activity and asking question. First of all, we would maybe ask a question. What, in their opinion, sexual behavior is? What type of sexual behaviors do they know? They would then we would ask about safety, how to make sure that our sexual behavior is safe, that we're safe. Then we would switch on the threats if we are not safe, or what kind of diseases or what kind of danger do we face?
Yeah, risks.
Yes, risks. And the final question would be, is sex the only way to catch a disease or something, to be unsafe? And then we would start playing the game and learning some things from these inner and outer circles.
Nice. So you already came up with a way to really address it, like what are we gonna say first and before we go to the panel? That's really nice. Is this something you would feel comfortable using on the streets?
Repeat the question, please. I couldn't understand.
No, it's okay. Is this something you would feel comfortable using on the streets? So if you had this panel with you, would it be okay for you to start addressing it?
Not in every place and in every district.
Okay.
It's a very I don't remember the word. It's a very problematic issue. We can't show these pictures to every children in Georgia. We have to think about it because there are religious groups and the groups where patriarchal culture, and if you talk about sex, they can just beat you up and kill you. I don't know. Yeah.
maybe starts with something a little less explicit, but it's not because it's a taboo or difficult subject that you shouldn't approach it. Of course, maybe you can approach it in different ways or with a.
Yes, we haven't. Yes, we haven't thought about it yet, but we have to adapt these topics and talk about them with those groups, but with okay, bye.
No, I totally understand. This is why we made more activities and more energizers and more a variety of panels, because it is and it will remain a difficult subject, not only because it's something you need to get used to yourself and you need to make sure you're comfortable with, but also because in some areas when you're working on the streets, people pass by, or there's a lot of taboos, or there's a lot of stereotypes about not only talking about sexual education, but also like the myths I told you, yeah, like, oh, you're giving our kids bad ideas. If there's a sex panel on the mobile school, the work there is to work not only with the kids, but also with the community, explain why it's important. But this is not something you can do from day one, of course. It's a process, it will take time. And you can start. There's some very accessible activities about boundaries, for example, which you can play with kids, even if they don't want to listen immediately to things about sexuality. It's already a part of sexuality. So, for example, learning to say, no, you can come until here and not further. This is a stop activity, for example. Or with the body twister. These are very fun games, and you're addressing sexuality in a very accessible way. not talking directly about using condoms and stuff like that, but still talking about your body and respecting boundaries. And so start there, slowly build up. If there's more questions, go into it. But it's how comfortable you are, how well you know the group, how well you know the community, what's accepted, what's not accepted. The idea is not to push your opinions, but to really listen to the kids. What do they need? What do they want from us? And don't assume that they don't want to hear it, or that it will be, yeah, it's tricky maybe in the beginning, but by having an open attitude, you can already counter a lot, yeah, and showing the other side. So don't impose your opinion, because you will probably have different opinions. It's okay for them to have a different one, but the most important thing is that we learn how to have respect for others' opinions and for everyone in their way of being. But I understand that it's tricky. This is why we developed the package. And I hope we could give you some guidelines or tips and tricks at least that were applicable for you guys. What I wanted to say as well is you can see below every game. So every game that's part of a sexuality panel, here you can see an extra game information per topic. There's actually a list of the games that are about that topic. You can, with small adaptations, you can make sure they're about the other topics as well, of course, but these are the topics they most belong to. And they're clickable. So you can just go here and say, oh, I want to find out more about games about the boundaries. I'll look at people to people. And then you just visit the other games and you can see which games you want to play, yeah, which energizers there are. You can also see the list in the articles on their shirts. They're here. There's a list here as well, yeah? So they're always underneath the game on play in extra game information. And in this article, you can find the list as well. So you can look at the activities, let us know what you think about them, if there's something is missing, if something should be adapted further, I don't know. I'm also gonna ask you, Sandra will share a link to fill in a survey about this webinar specifically, because as I mentioned, it's the very first time we give this webinar, and it's a bit difficult to know what kind of information you were hoping to get. So let us know. If this is not what you wanted to hear, write it down. I won't be offended. Yeah, if you say, no, I needed more this, or I expected this, or it would really be helpful if you could talk about this. Just write it down, let us know, and then maybe we can organize a different webinar in the future about the topics that you mentioned. Okay, so I want to thank you a lot for your participation. I hope it has been fun being here and interesting. It was very interesting and nice seeing you all here appear on my screen. And please fill in the survey to give us more feedback so we can keep adapting our offer for the future. Okay, if you have any more questions or feedback for the group or to share with us, you can do so now. And if not, I wish you a very nice day and thank you very much for your active participation.
Thank you too. I like to.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
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 Bye. And Nikos, I can share the recording with you. It's not a problem.
Thank you.
Oh my.
Perfect.
Bye, guys. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for being here and for your time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.